Hi, good morning, Booktube. How is everything? Leave me a comment below to tell me how your 4th of July is going. This is going to be a straight, mostly unedited video. I kind of want to get this out there as quickly as possible, kind of thing. So I'm just going to go for it. Anyway, I want to review two classics. One's this guy. Crime and Punishment. Crime and Punishment is by Fyodor Dostoevsky. If I'm pronouncing the Russian names wrong, which I will, let me know. And also The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I guess I'll start with this one, because this one's short. See how short that is? And like half of it's taken out because I got the Wordsworth Classic Edition instead of like something else that has like less notes in it. The book pretty much this is really how long the book is. This, and the same thing is with this one. This one, I don't know why my computer did that. Okay. There we go. That one's more centered. Okay, so anyway, The Great Gatsby is basically, it's a story about a guy named Jay Gatsby and his struggle to reclaim the person that he fell in love with. Unfortunately, she is married. Not that that stopped anything at all, but yeah, she's married, and the story's told from Daisy Buchanan's cousin's point of view, Nick Carraway, anyway. And so basically it's like you get a lot of Nick's thoughts through all of this, just kind of how Nick felt about certain things they got up to, certain things they decided to do, the way Gatsby treated, or the way that Gatsby was treated, the way Daisy was treated, how much of a douchebag Tom, Daisy's husband, is, and he is a douchebag. I would go so far as to label him a sociopath or a narcissist, or better yet, a sociopath with narcissistic tendencies, because that's pretty much what you get from here. It's like you get that pretty much from the moment you meet him. And one of the reasons why I read this book was because I chose this for one of my essays. Anyway, so very interesting things about the narrator. The narrator is not the most reliable narrator in the world, which is at one point he's very against what they're all doing and stuff like that, and at another point he's advocating for Gatsby probably because Gatsby has this air and charisma about him that makes it hard to want to say anything bad about him. Fortunately, he does not look at his cousin and his cousin's husband through these rose-colored glasses, and actually somewhat condemns what Daisy and Tom did, because Daisy basically what she did was decide that she valued reputation, and reputation's important to a degree, but she valued a high-class reputation, and not exactly what I would call a good reputation, over, and materialism over a person, which was kind of how, like, Gatsby wasn't, when she and Gatsby first met, Gatsby wasn't as, I guess, materialistic, as possessive as he was, or as he became later on in his life. Like, his entire life story also gets slowly revealed. It's very disjointed because there's a mythology around Gatsby that's almost interesting. Almost. But anyway, so there's Gatsby. The relationship between him and Daisy, like, form again. Like, this is this book basically is Gatsby's attempt to try and recapture his relationship with Daisy. Like, everything he's done until now was all about Daisy. And I think every one of us can admit that that sort of mindset is completely and totally wrong. When you go for wealth and prosperity, you do not do it because you're in love with somebody. You do it for yourself. And you do it because it's one of these things where I'm just kind of like, okay, take me for example. Do I want to become a best-selling author? Yeah, that'd be cool. You know, I can pay off my student loans if I became a best-selling author now. You know, but while that's nice, I like writing. I actually enjoy writing. It's more of a passion for me than I think it is for most people who have gotten into it lately. However, I mean, it's just that's just how I feel and about, like, writing. And if I could make money off of it, that'd be great. And making money off of it basically means people are reading it and like it, hopefully. And I think that's, like, that sort of, I guess, money-making ideal, like, you know, if I'm doing something I love, and if it makes money, great. It's helping people, that's awesome. It's giving people joy, that's so cool. Giving them something to do in their pastime, awesome. But, you know, I'm enjoying what I do, and if I make money off of it, that's great too, but I'm going to keep doing what I love to do, because it's fun. I don't care if I'm destitute and still having to live with my mom, just to do what I love to do. But yeah, and that's what Gatsby doesn't have, and it's almost disappointing because he is an idealist, but he's an idealist with all the American dream stuff, all for the wrong reasons. It's all like, it's like he is the epitome, or the epitome, or something. My brain's shot right now. I've been writing essays for the past week, so I'm a little muddled. But, like, he is the best representative of just what happens when you allow something as noble and good as the American dream go to this, given to materialism. Like, the thing is, the American dream isn't just about, you know, picking yourself up and making a bunch of money and having a bunch of possessions. The American dream is supposed to show that all the work you've done for your family, you've provided for them, you've contributed to your general happiness and their general happiness, and when you care more about the people who matter, and instead of the people who, like, don't treat people like possessions, then that's the American dream. I think that's the corrupt version of it, and unfortunately Gatsby has this, and there's like 1,000,001 essays that touch on Gatsby and how he's representing the American dream of the 1920s, basically, of the Roaring Twenties, the days of the flapper. Anyway, so I mean that's pretty much The Great Gatsby in a nutshell. A bunch of people cheated on each other, and one of them died. That's The Great Gatsby. If I really wanted to sum it up in like a sentence. Anyway, so Great Gatsby, now for Crime and Punishment by a Russian dude whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce. Crime and Punishment is not for everybody. For one thing, the translators, I don't know why they never actually get people who actually know Russian to translate. And I understand translating from Russian, especially, would it be about 19th century Russian, I think? Yes, because communism is mentioned in this book, so it would be 19th century Russian. It's a little difficult, but anyway, it's also not for everybody because it takes part one, it's divided into parts. It happens over the span of think about 2 or 3 days. It's really short, and it takes, oh my gosh, so long. It takes about 77 pages for 2 days to happen and 3 days to happen, and for a murder to be committed, and it's just the very almost you think the details are unimportant, the everyday details are unimportant, but they're not, or they're not important. Wow, my grammar is just shot today. But they're not unimportant. They're just, part of you can't help but think that maybe the point could have been made without having to write an incredibly long novel that was just a rant. Half of the novel, if you took out all of the rants, seriously, the novel's made up of rants pretty much, and inner monologues and dronings and groanings and complainings and all that stuff. If you took all of that out and just left all of the scenes and the actual dialogue discourse with just one monologue, there's only one really important monologue, and they're the one that's actually almost central to the story because it involves a subplot that kind of ties into the plot. There's only one monologue that actually really was needed. All of the other ones just could have been summed up in something else. There's a lot of there's a lot of telling going on in this story. Basically, Dostoevsky, pretty much anybody who's read him probably ends up doing the whole telling thing. What they tell pretty much every fan fiction author not to do, and every author not to do, show don't tell. Well, this author tells, you pretty much know just how batshit insane or incredibly unhinged Raskolnikov, I'm going to call him Rodion. But you pretty much know how unhinged the main character is, and he's so in denial about it, and everybody else about him, because he thinks coherently enough to where everybody else is kind of are you insane? We're not sure. And for me, I'm no, he's insane. He's crazy. He needs to go to the madhouse. And then he commits to a double murder. That one of them was completely unneeded, and the way the character of one of the people murdered was described, I do not understand why he didn't try to justify himself to her, because the other person who was murdered abused this woman, you know? And so when you look at it like that, and the fact that he felt like he had to murder her, like, A, you could tell he was completely insane by the time he did that, and B, it was just like, I don't know, he wasn't thinking clearly, and no one thinks clearly. Well, let me rephrase that. Serial killers can think clearly, but he was not thinking clearly at all. And he really tried to justify, like, what he'd done, how he'd done it, and why, and all of that. And so that's what made what kind of, like, you know, it made his character, like, really hard to like. I mean, he did things that were good. Like, it was his base instinct good things, and then he would hate himself for doing it. Like, seriously. And then it's a lot. And then he'd go on a monologue about it while he's walking aimlessly through town. So it's very, like, it's very monologue-y, and yeah, it's very monologue-y, very irritating, and, like, I really didn't start getting into the novel until, like, they started, Dostoevsky gets more away from, further and further away from the whole monologue thing, the further away he gets from the murders, because then everybody else's point of view is needed, and apparently he only felt like one character needed to go on a endless diatribe. And so everybody else didn't really do that, but and there was actual discourse going on between them, and it was more interesting to watch or read. And so with that in mind, it's really hard to get into this book. This book is not for everybody. This book is seriously not for everybody. If you do not have a very wide attention span, like me, getting through this book is going to be hard. I started reading this book in April. I put it down and read other things, and then I finally picked it back up because I wanted to finish this, because my boyfriend wants to read it. He likes this author, and he hasn't read Crime and Punishment yet. So that's part of the reason why I went on I plowed right through it. I really did plow right through it. Thankfully, I am fairly good at remembering what I read, and that, like, this, I'm good at picking out what happened in the plot. Like, the plot it's a very basic plot. It just took over 400 pages for Dostoevsky to tell it. And I intend to start Anna Karenina, not right now, and I'll explain why in a different video. But yeah, it's a hard novel to get into, and if you don't get into it, that is A-okay. If you put it down and decide you don't want to read Crime and Punishment again, I totally understand. I think a lot more people would have more fun with The Great Gatsby. I personally believe that, because The Great Gatsby is much shorter. The language, it was written in English, and so the language isn't as hard to get through. Like, there were several sentences in Crime and Punishment that kind of made me go, translator. I need to write to the translator, and probably to the publisher about how icky the translation is. It wasn't the best translation in the world. I guess it was probably more coherent than others would be, but I wouldn't know. It was my first Russian book. Anna Karenina will probably be my next one, so we'll see how much I like Anna Karenina and whether or not I can actually get through that. So, tell me your thoughts. What you, again, tell me about your favorite classical books and which ones didn't really hit with you at all. And about half of you would probably just say, well, I read this one book in school that made me snore. Or some of you would probably even say, I hate Shakespeare, which if all of you have read the normal Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet stuff, yeah, you would hate Shakespeare because you won't be able to appreciate just how funny he is until you actually read his real comedies. So anyway, because that's just how it is. They don't give you the good Shakespeare ones. They just give you the mainstream stuff that everybody likes and completely misrepresents. So anyway, have a nice day, everybody. Happy 4th of July, and enjoy your 4th of July and enjoy your day. Bye-bye.